I'll eat later.
Well, we're off to a great start. There's 4 meetings in the month of September, and all of you right now are 25% of the way to 100%. And I love it. Everybody that's here, raise your hand. And anybody that's not here, they're going to get a call from somebody. That's right, 100%. Sarah Doggett was supposed to do our invocation, but I think she's getting married Saturday, and I did get an email from her, and she seems to have a lot going on. The Reverend David Crabtree is going to stand in for Sarah.
Father, we just ask today that you would watch over us and guide us in all that we do. Help us to serve others, to love you, to love people. And we pray especially for Sarah as she's going into such a special weekend that your blessing would rest on her. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The things we think, say, and do.
Is it truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Bobby's doing a Rotary moment for me.
I did. I had a Rotary moment yesterday. Sarah's in charge of New Generations, our Page Interact Club, and of course with all of her wedding plans and all that, she was kind of busy this week, and they had the first Interact Club meeting yesterday at Page High School. So I went over there and put on some long pants instead of my shorts I wore to work. And they elected club officers, and they had a huge crowd of students, and it was just really neat to see all those young faces. And they really wanted to know what service projects, what do we have going on, and I sort of gave them a rundown of all the things that we got going on, and they wanted to know when's Big Sweep and so on. And it's quite neat to just look out there at the future of Rotary, the faces of those young high school students. And I asked how many of them were in the club last year, and there were a lot of hands. So I mean, it's a repeat deal, so it was really refreshing to see that. Sergeant at Arms, let's see, we got Tom or John?
We have 3 visiting Rotarians, Deborah Friedman and Jay Brennan from Summit, and Bob Glenn from Gilster. We have 2 guests, and I'll let Danny Farley introduce his guest.
I brought Howard Driggers with me, and I intend to bring him some more.
Tommy Richardson has a guest.
Bennett Brackens visiting again today. Bennett was introduced by Bobby last week.
Bennett, let me embarrass you one
Again?
more time.
Just kidding. Now that I come back, you do this every week.
Oh, this is Hazen.
All right.
I told y'all that Tommy and Bennett and I all grew up, and I think Tommy said the other day that he overheard Emily say, "Y'all taking over." But I'll tell you what, Bennett, his father, anybody remember Marlin Perkins and National Geographic? His father was a real-life Marlin Perkins in the neighborhood. And we hunted, we fished, you name it. When you were out in the woods with Bennett and his father, and there was some sort of animal, you brought it home. We were out hunting behind the oil terminal one time, and there was a big pile of wood or something there, and we walked by, and your dad said, I bet there's some snakes in there. And he goes over, and lo and behold, he found a whole nest of copperheads. If that wasn't enough, he put them in a bucket, and we brought them home. They were in the front seat of the car in that bucket, and Greg Laughlin was in the front, and the rest of them, and one of them got out. Greg falls over into the back seat. Your father was totally unfazed.
Greg runs pretty quick for a big boy, too. Copperhead in his lap.
But that was typical Bracken. We're married with children. We're down at the beach, and our children are little babies. And Bennett, we go play golf, and he comes out of the woods looking for a golf ball with a black snake.
That's how I play golf.
He did what he'd been taught. He zipped it up in the side of his golf bag and took it back to the beach house, and the wives had a fit.
One of the lower points of my life, my property value dipped very sharply.
Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks.
Is that all the guests? Announcements, Dan.
We have some sign-up sheets on the table. Before I go to that, remember to bring your extra unneeded clothes because there'll be a box truck out on the 12th next week for, what's the group called again?
It's a Salvation Army.
It is a Salvation Army.
And they'll have a big truck, right? You
Yeah.
won't miss it coming in next week, right? here at the
Through one of the
truck.
other clubs, getting us involved in that. And then Big Sweep, the date, remember, is the 21st, to save that week, that morning, Saturday. And then sign-up sheets there. It'll be probably west of central downtown. Don't have an exact location. Bring your kids. It's good way to get service hours for children too. It's a good thing to start with. And then the project rebuild sign-ups are on the table. If anybody's really skilled with the saw, that'd be wonderful if we can have a saw man.
Thank you, Danny. Birthdays, anniversaries. Kevin.
Have we picked a project for rebuild? Do we know what the project is?
Danny, have they told us what the project is for rebuild?
Yeah, it's a roofing project. I gotta get the, I don't have the location, but it's coming up.
All right.
No, it's not, I don't think it's Tuesday.
We have some experienced roofers at this point. Kevin.
We've got a couple anniversaries and birthdays today. This week, on the 2nd, Randy and Jenny Elliott for anniversary.
All right.
On the 3rd was Marlee and Matthew Foster. And on the 6th, it will be, tomorrow, Jack and Monique Reynolds. Very good. And for birthdays, on the 3rd, Mike Andrus.
All right, Mike.
Also on the 3rd is Robbie Hassel. And the challenge is if we can sing in key again, because we have a birthday this morning, is with Emily.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Emily. Happy birthday to you.
A good thing she was sitting next to Robbie around all of the rest of
All right, happy dollars. Buster.
Hey, 1 second, before we
yeah,
go
right.
on the, to accomplish our 100%, we're gonna start the 5:45s next Tuesday. It's not gonna be next Thursday, it's gonna be on Tuesday. Is that good with everyone? Good. Right there, and you'll get the email today, it's gonna be at the, Fleming's.
You buying?
Remember we're doing, yes,
No,
I'm
it's not
buying.
6 till 7, right? Or you doing
6
5?
to, well, 5:45, so I said, if we get there early, we can have a
They've got
drink.
specials at the
Right,
bar.
that's why.
They do.
For
actually.
$6, you can get a $6 cheeseburger that'll blow your mind there until 7
Yeah,
o'clock.
good point.
So I'll put that up today, but it's gonna be on next Tuesday.
Tuesday. All right, thank you, Ralph.
All right, happy dollars. Let's see, I gotta go run out to Eden and take my 8th grader to the Betsy Jeff 10. It's the 4-H club. His class is going out there on a ropes course, so it's really neat the way the school takes the 8th graders. They do an overnighter and they do the low course one day, then the next day they do the high ropes, and you know where they like stand on one of those posts. If you guys ever done that, to jump off onto something. Not me. Birthday girl.
So first, thanks Dorothy for letting me the dog. But this is just a story about how amazing Rotary is. So, you know, I'd sent out, we're hearing from the charity bike ride this morning, and I have friends who are doing it across Asia. And they also wanted to do volunteer work along the way. So they're getting into Chiang Mai in Thailand on Saturday. But I emailed a club there and said, I have friends coming through and they want to do volunteer work. Does your Rotary Club have anything? Or, do you know anyone? And they did some emailing around, and a couple days later, I get an email back saying, here's an organization that works with youth that they can go, play sports or teach English or do something with the kids, so they're going to connect with them when they're in Chiang Mai. So the power of Rotary internationally is just amazing.
You got $1 after you bought that car that you sent?
I didn't buy it.
Sue wouldn't let you.
You're not going to get tired of hearing this, but last Friday did another aerial atom experience. In fact, we couldn't meet at a Rotary makeup because Corey Newton was there, and we bumped into Brian Sowers from the Crescent Club. So, would that count as a makeup? Anyway, it was a great.
This month, yes.
There we go. Bad news connected with that good news is that now I'm thinking I really need to go on the full day program.
James said he would loan you the money.
Yeah, we got you covered.
He's got it.
No, really?
I got two here. It's Friday night. Northwest plays Northern, and Wilder came home last night and says, "I think I'm gonna be starting, Dad." Cool. Yeah, so after just like that show, that's pretty good. So that's number one.
Did you put Greensboro Orthopedic on notice? Did you put Greensboro Orthopedic on notice?
Well, believe it. He actually had his surgeon at the game last Friday night on the sideline. So that's how good the outcome from that. The other one is your pig cooking team for Pig Stock, November the 2nd. We had a meeting last night. We came up with 3 or 4 possible names, and I just like a little input from the club. We're thinking about maybe Blurred Swine. little beer drink to go along with it. Hunka Burn and Rub. How about Snoop Hogg and the Really Hot Saucers? Like, send me an email if it's got some opinions. How about that?
Dr. Andres.
Well, my 2 alma maters met on Saturday night, Clemson and Georgia, number 8, number 5, and I got to give it out to my Tigers for pulling out an awesome win.
What about your other alma mater?
My blood runs orange, what can I say?
Chip.
There's $1 for the things that you see that just make you say, wow. Last week, my wife and I, we were out in Colorado for a wedding, and we're going to stretch it into a little extra vacation, so we traveled over to southern Utah, and I've never been to anything out west. We stopped in Arches and Canyonlands, and the geography out there is stunning. If you've never been out west to the desert or some of those national parks, put it on your bucket list. It will make you say, wow.
Well, as we enter into the political season, something Grandpappy, well, actually, no, I just spied someone who was in the newspaper and did not confess, and so, Mike Allen, you owe me $2.
What happened to 5?
So,
You don't have to self-report about
I was one of the 12 lawyers from the firm that were named one of the best lawyers. It's a nationwide thing. It was for intellectual property litigation.
He was in my courtroom this week.
Another good experience. If you have a chance to serve as a juror while Judge Hassel is there, I understand it's a wonderful experience, that you do a great job in really making them appreciate the civic duty and making it a good experience. So,
yeah. Anyway, as the political season approaches, Grandpappy always gave me some advice. He said the difference between Democrats and Republicans. He said, if you were broken down on the side of the road and you had a flat tire, a Democrat would stop to help you, but he would end up setting your car on fire. He said a Republican would know how to fix the flat, but he wouldn't stop because he didn't want to be late for the ugly pants contest at the country club. You had a good summation.
Let's see, got a couple of presentations. You know, our fundraiser's coming up, and it's always exciting, but probably the real gift of the fundraiser is being able to give it away to the giver. And we heard from Youth for Christ back in June when Rick O'Hare was here through Tom Sears. And Tom, if you come up, I've got a check for $1,000 from Gate City Rotary on behalf of the Past President's Committee for your work with Youth for Christ.
Thank y'all. We got 301 kids at camp this summer. We've so far been paid for 240 some. We've done absorb the rest, but that's what we've done this summer for them.
And back in July, when I was on vacation, we heard from the Easter Music Festival, and Blake Hunt had put in for a grant for them. And Blake, I have a check here for $1,000 to the Eastern Music Festival.
I tell you, EMF, this money really helps these kids. It's very expensive for them to come to this camp, but they learn so much, and as you guys heard from them, they're very accomplished, and this gives a lot of these kids the opportunity to play in groups and in front of people that they don't get anywhere else. So thank you very much for this.
Okay, Emily.
Well, I'm actually up here just trying to help him with technology, but it is interesting with this. We'll have speakers come and get everything ready, and then all of a sudden it'll stop working, like the videos down here.
I'm gonna get in trouble with my boss because I forgot, but he did remind me to do the happy dollar, and I'm sorry, I'm a little sleep deprived. But the sidewalk sale, if anybody hasn't attended, is this weekend. The J.D.R. Fresh Market Sidewalk Sale, all fresh markets, root beer floats and hot dogs from 11 to 6, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Please come out and get a hot. They are the best hot dogs. I mean, I don't eat hot dogs very often, but they are the best hot dogs. They're Smithfield. So please come out, and that way I'll get in trouble with Mike Conrad. So.
That was Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Oh, who am I?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Come get your hot dogs.
You're in there.
All right. Didn't need much introduction, but so we have
our own David Crabtree.
We hired a new media director, and she's like 12 years old. She assured me that my iPhone would work for this, so we're going to give it a shot. Anyways, Hope Ride. Just want to give you a little bit of a report and kind of take you there if I can for just a few minutes. On May the 23rd of this year, stirred myself out of my jet-lagged slumber in Livingston, Zambia. Pulled our 11-man team in for a quick breakfast, loaded in 2 Range Rovers. And just to gain a little bit of perspective on what we were going to be doing over the next 6 days, facing 6 days and 620 miles on the road on a hard saddle, I thought a little bit of inspiration might be in order, especially since 2 of my guys showed up seriously undertrained. My 2 riders from Georgia showed up, and they should have had about 2,000 to 3,000 miles in the saddle. And one guy finally just shamefaced just said to me, you know, he said, I've ridden about 300 miles over 4 months. And he was going to do 600 miles in 6 days. So we were up against some serious challenges, which is another leadership lesson, but that's for another time. Livingston is on the Zambia-Zimbabwe border, and the 2 countries share an incredible bridge. They do a lot of bungee jumping off the bridge. I forewent that whole process, but they do a lot of bungee jumping there, but also they're right there at the magnificent Victoria Falls. And so I made arrangements with our guys in the morning so that they could just gain a perspective of where we were, how incredibly beautiful it was, kind of get a big vision for where we were going. And so we loaded them up in ultralights and put them up over Victoria Falls. And so it was one of those incredible moments. And the leadership lesson in the midst of all of this is one by one the guys were able to just gain some elevation. And sometimes, it doesn't matter what you're doing, if you can gain a little bit of elevation, if you can get out of the trenches, if you can get off the roadway and just see the big picture and see just a little bit further, kind of capture the horizons, it inspires you to go just a little bit harder. And actually, it inspired the two guys who were seriously undertrained because they did finish. We did have one trip to the hospital checking a guy out for a heart issue, but they did finish. Let me tell you, you don't want to go to the hospital in Francistown, Botswana. You do not want to walk through the door and say, I think I'm having a heart attack. It's a moment that gives your team leader a heart attack. And so we enjoyed the beauty of the African bush. It's just an amazing place. It's always easier to inspire people when they're struggling away in the trenches if you can help them somehow capture vision. In my job, in my life, in my calling, week after week after week, I stand before people and I try and help them capture a larger vision of life, a bigger vision of who they are and why they're here and what it's all about and why it really matters. It's a simple leadership lesson. Help people see a bigger vision. Over the next 6 days, these guys pedaled, we counted them up, over 200, I think it was 260,000 pedal strokes to get them across Zambia and Botswana and then well into South Africa. I just think we'd all be better leaders if we'd help people see the big picture. I finally got to go up and thought I'd give you all the thumbs up, but that's the way to start your day. On the left, you'll see Zimbabwe. You can see the bridge back here where they do the bungee jumping. But on the left, you see Zimbabwe. On the right, it's Zambia, and the falls is cut down through that gorge. And if you ever get a chance to go, if you ever get a chance to see it, it is truly one of the magnificent wonders of the world. I saw this 12 days after I flew around Everest. So it's been a big year for me as far as seeing the big picture. And I've been very, very blessed. But help people see the big picture. When we traded the ultralight for the bike saddle, we were no longer riding on the air currents. We were facing 600 miles of bad road, which leads me to the next leadership lesson, and that is just expect a few rough patches. This is called a shot block. It's about that big around. It's a little like candy gel type thing that you chew for energy on the bike. Put about 6 or 8 of them in a little packet in the back, and you can take them down easily. A whole package will give you about 100 and maybe 150 calories. It gives you some sugar, and so it helps you go. I put that down on the roadway just so I could give people perspective. I meant to bring one this morning and put it in my hand so you could see the size of it. But that's the road surface that we were riding on road bikes, and sometimes it was a little bit better, and sometimes it was a little bit worse. But believe me, we really did get beat up a little bit. You've just got to expect that life's going to have its rough patches. Adding to the challenge, when we got there, KTM, our bicycle sponsor, had promised us carbon fiber bikes, and carbon eats up road noise, and so we were really looking forward to that. We got there, and when they offloaded their trailer, the bikes weren't carbon fiber, the bikes were aluminum. And I looked at the bikes, and then I looked at the wheel sets they had on the bike, and I thought, if you wanted to torture somebody, make them ride that bike for, well, we made it. I'm not complaining. But life isn't always smooth. Lessons in all of this is management gets what it inspects, not what it expects. And I've learned that over and over in the work that I do. Management gets what it inspects, not what it expects. And God help the poor soul who expects life to be smooth and comfy. And leadership's not smooth and comfy. Leadership is big picture. It's small details. It's macro. It's seeing the broad scale, but it's also micro. It's grand, but it's also gritty. It takes you to the pinnacle. You have your high moments, but it's also the pits. And life sometimes just comes with some rough patches. And maybe some of you are going through some rough patches right now. I don't say it in a flippant way, but that's life. There's no one in this room who couldn't get up and tell us a story about some time in their life where it was just rough. That's just part of it. We were thoroughly briefed before venturing into the open range in Botswana. When you encounter wildlife out here in Botswana in the Chobe area, it is completely unpoliced. There's There are rangers there only to shoot poachers. I mean, the animals rule. And they're everywhere. You see a little bit of everything. And we were coached over and over again. And in our leadership meetings with our guys, we said, listen, you've just got to obey rules when it comes to these wild animals, because you never know what they're going to do. And the advice we were given, because we were traveling in a pace line where we were all in a single line going down the road, is if there's something on the side of the road and it looks at all threatening, you know, smoothly roll to the other side of the road and keep in a straight line, but keep moving. We were going about 20 miles an hour, so at 20 miles an hour, you're going to get by. Some of these animals can definitely catch you, but if you keep going, the law of averages say you're going to get through there. If you stop and get off the bike, then you pose a threat to the animal, whatever the animal is. Yes?
You just really have to outrun the other guy, right?
That's the bottom line. The bottom line. And that was the joke from day one. It's later in my notes here. Thanks, Chip. Chip's heard all these before. Bottom line is I don't have to be the fastest rider. I just have to outride you. Yeah. And so you're told just keep riding, whatever, keep riding. When you encounter dangerous wildlife, keep a straight line, keep discipline. We all heard it. We all heard it. Straight line. Say it with me, by the way. Say it with me right now. Stay in a straight line. Stay in a straight line. We did this with the guys at breakfast. We did this with the guys at breakfast. Management gets what it inspects, not what it expects. So we went through all of this. We made sure that we covered all of our bases. Make sure that you stay in a straight line. Now, all of us on this trip are people of average intelligence or above average intelligence. We all knew what we were supposed to do. And what happened when we came upon our first bull elephant on the side of the road, quite unhappy with our invasion? Yeah, stay in a straight line. I lost a little bit of the size with the projector here, but the guy on the left is almost at a dead stop. The guy on the right has swung all the way over into the other lane, and he's looking back at us like, well, what do we do? And the elephant is beginning to turn. The exciting thing about this moment was this is a freeze frame. I wish I had the film, because at this point the elephant turned, he kind of laid an eye on us, and then he did almost a perfect pirouette. He came all the way around, his head dropped, his ears started flapping, he started chuffing, these loud chuffing noises. He launched himself a couple of times, and there were 7 guys spread all over guys were absolutely going in every direction. It was like the old Monty Python race for people with no sense of direction. It was like stay in a straight line. Nobody remembered anything that had been said. And the best part of it is one guy who was riding with us who's climbed Everest 3 times. So he's a guy who's known a lot of big challenges. He was absolutely mesmerized by the size of this elephant, and this elephant being so close, and the fact that it was a wild animal, and he's all caught up in it. And he looks up, and about the time he looks up away from the elephant to see where we are, we're 120 yards down the road and getting just as hard as we can go, and he's all alone there. But anyways, wouldn't it be great if training sessions guaranteed performance? Wouldn't it be great when you went to seminars like seminars over at Creative Leadership, Center for Creative Leadership? Wouldn't it be great if when you walked away, you had all that stuff down pat, and you went back to your office and people said, oh, please tell us about the seminar you just went to. We can't wait to apply all of these wonderful new ideas. I mean, it does not happen that way. We need principles, but we also need practice. Our talk doesn't equal walk. And we've got to kind of live it. We've got to walk it out. The Bible brings us into sharp focus when Paul talks about bearing fruit, and that metaphor is just perfect. Fruit is an instant. Fruit requires work. Fruit requires cultivation. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes days and nights. It's all about development, and it's about time. And although I don't lead people in a business perspective, I do lead a staff of 20, and I've learned that as a leader, I just have to be patient sometimes. Have to do the hard work and not expect that something that I have said has been fully understood, or a set of principles that I've put up on a board someplace are going to be acted upon. And so your talk does not equal walk. Sometimes you just have to live it to learn it. And some learning requires a few minutes, some learning requires a few days, some of it takes a lifetime. By the time on day 3 we started encountering baboons and warthogs and some of the other animals that were really quick across the road and you definitely didn't want to mess with, we were really good at holding the line. Really good at holding the line. So after they kind of lived it a little bit and got used to it, I've got to tell you though, this was one of those moments. Next lesson was don't miss the moment. Don't miss the moment. This is 3 a.m. in the Chobe Wildlife Area. The first night we were camped out in Chobe because there was no town within 100 miles in circumference that had any type of accommodations. So we had a wagon, we had a chow wagon, we had tents, we had a couple of support people along who were setting things up for us. And here we are in Chobe, 3 a.m. And a former paratrooper sitting by the fire, he's on the right, his name was Daniel. He's sitting by this roaring fire. He kept going all night long to keep the animals at bay. And you're laying there in your bed and the elephants are pushing over trees in the area, so it's real quiet, and all of a sudden you hear this crack like lightning. It's the trunk of a tree going over, and you hear the noise of the elephants as they're moving in the night, and calls and squalls pierce the night, and it's all okay until you hear that one roar. And that one roar, it's like the first time you ever heard a Harley. I mean, you kind of never forget the sound. You feel the sound, and even though it was at a distance, that first roar, it kind of makes sleep impossible. Plus, you're all jet lagged, and it's day 1, and you've just wiped yourselves out with 100 miles on the bike, and your body doesn't know what to do. So sleep was impossible for me, and a couple other guys who got up, and we're sitting there. I love the expression on the face of the guy on the left, on my training partner there on the far left. He's looking out. I think I remember this moment. I think this was the roar moment, but I'm not sure. And if it seems like these guys are just frozen in time, resigned to the fact that they may be eaten at any moment, that kind of was going through our mind. Four of our team are completely sacked out. They're oblivious to what is going on here. You might say that they chose the wiser path, but I'll tell you, bottom line, they missed it. They missed it. Of that entire trip, this is one of my favorite moments of all. Sitting there with a cup of coffee, you've got a full moon that's risen in the trees behind you. I mean, the moonlight was absolutely mind-blowing. You've got wildlife going on all around you. It is so still, you can't, I mean, there's nothing going on except for the sounds of nature around you. You're sitting there with some great people, having a good time, living just a little bit on the edge, but you're living. And I remember that moment so clear that I can smell it, I can hear it. I lived it. I wouldn't have missed it from the world, or for all the world. And so you see, the sun was setting when we got off our bikes here in the Chobe Wilderness, and the setup had been delayed, and the tents were up, but the hot water shower that the paratrooper rigged for us, he wasn't there early enough to get the water heated for the hot water shower. I can't tell you what it's like to explain it, not to be indelicate, but there's nothing like standing buck naked under a 2-gallon bag of freezing water, and trying to shower with that thing with this spigot, and you have to like turn the spigot like this and get a little squirt and then soap up, and then some of you have done this before. You can't believe how cold it gets out there as soon as the sun goes down. So you've got that freezing water, you've got the wind moving, plus you feel kind of like a Chick-fil-A sandwich tossed into a cage in the zoo. I mean, you are so exposed. It's like, you're the ultimate white meat. You're saying, here I am, come and get me. And I wanted so much at this point. I wanted to sleep. I planned to sleep. I had crawled into the tent. I was really looking forward to getting some rest, but I wouldn't have missed this for the world. I said to Jacques when we were sitting around the fire, I said, get a picture of this. So I'm grateful that he did. We miss a lot of moments in life. We really miss a lot of moments in life because we're too busy. We sleep, or we're working, or we miss the kids growing up. We miss a lot of adventure. I'm enjoying my grandkids right now, but I'm also suffering a few of those pangs because when my kids were that age, we were struggling with a church that was barely surviving, and we were kicking it like crazy, trying to make things happen. And you talk about hard work. Now we were going daylight to dark, and I had a great life with my kids growing up and watching my kids grow up. All of that was really great in so many ways, and yet now with my grandchildren, I'm looking at my kids and going, wow, I think I really missed some moments. And I try to remind myself now, I've got kind of a second shot at it with the grandkids, don't miss the moments. You can't tell really when those moments are going to come because they're unscripted. They'll hit you at times you never would have expected them. They just kind of drift along. Just keep your radar on because they'll come. They'll come. Look around in moments where you feel like life is really dragging, or when you feel like you're at a dead end, or you wonder, how in the world did I get here, or what's this all about? Look around in those moments, because sometimes there is wrapped up within the mystery of that moment something really wonderful that's about to unfold. Well, I just put this one in. I don't have anything to go with it, but I just think everybody should see the giraffes crossing the road. And my leadership lesson in this is simply, sometimes you just have to slow down and let the giraffes cross the road. I don't know if you can plug that in anywhere. I might just throw it on Facebook because it sounds really wise. I haven't got any meaning to put with it, but sometimes you just have to slow down and let the giraffes walk. There's one in front of the little van there, and there's 3 on the side, and then there's 2 coming on over here, and there were 3 more behind them. Wow. And this was shot. This is just freeze frame from one of the guys on the bike who had a little video camera going at the time, and I'm so glad that he did, because this is a moment where you're just absolutely stunned and in awe.
Were they staying in a line?
They were staying in a line. They had a meeting that morning, Danny, actually. They had a meeting that morning, stay in a straight line if you see any wild animals on the road. And so, yeah, they were staying in a straight line. We were stopping behind this rig because they were coming, but to watch them run, they're in a full run mode right now, and the gracefulness of those things. You don't realize how fast they're going. They look like they're barely moving at all until you look at the horizon. And they're really getting it, but they're incredible, incredible animals. So anyways, I thought you should see that one. Don't take yourself too seriously. This is the crew, and we're at one of the schools that we stopped at, and we've done a presentation there, and we've taken education materials to the teachers, and we've given the Book of Hope to all of the kids. We had a couple of assemblies. We had such an incredible morning. This woman is, well, she's awesome. I've been at her school twice now. And let me use her for the backdrop for the teaching point. I've been asked how I've survived 32 years in a pastoral role, because 32 years is a long time. And 28 years in one church is a long time. If you're not aware of it, attrition rates are off the charts with the American ministerial right now. It's a real problem. 2009 studies show that most denominations are struggling to fill their pulpits, to fill their dormitories and their classrooms and their colleges and their seminaries. 80% of seminary graduates leave the ministry within the first 5 years. 80%. So when we go to a seminary graduation and you see all those people standing up there, 5 years later, only 20% of them are engaged in the area that they've trained for. Studies estimate somewhere between 1,400 and 2,000 ministers are leaving the ministry every month. Every month. And so it can be a tough life, and it's not easy. It's not always an easy road. But people ask me, well, how have you survived all of that? First of all, please don't feel sorry for me ever. I've got the greatest job in all of the world. I can't imagine ever doing anything else. I'm still just crazy about ministry, and I love everything about it. But if I could really answer how do you endure and how do you hold on and how do you keep fresh and if I could answer all of that in a concise way, I'd write a book and make a lot of money and give it all to reaching a generation. But I know that my endurance comes in part simply because I laugh. I laugh a lot. I laugh every day. I laugh with my staff. I have a hilarious family. I laugh with my family. I laugh with my friends. I find I laugh every day. I've learned to make my own weather. I take life seriously, but me, not so much. And the woman in this picture, She's a Kenyan lady, and her circumstances relocated her suddenly into Botswana, where she saw children in her neighborhood who were so poor that they couldn't go to school, and she said, well, that's not right. I need to do something about that. And so she started her own school as an outsider. She started her own school, and against all odds, she's been incredibly successful. And the children at her school are the poorest children, although they don't look like poor children at all. And I shot this during one of the presentations. These children are they are stunningly beautiful. Incredibly beautiful. They are impeccably dressed in their school uniforms. Those uniforms are just as clean as they can possibly be. This teacher has somehow instilled in these children and in their teachers and the parents such a sense of pride in what they are doing, that they are getting an education. These children have this mindset, I am getting an education, I am privileged. They don't have any money, but they are privileged because they're getting an education. She does incredible work there, but really you can see in the picture that I showed you before, she is the most delightful. She's just, Mrs. Swanaker is her name. She has built this great school. She's tough as nails, but she's fun. She's really fun. She knows how to laugh. Her teachers are just full of joy. You walk onto that campus and you can feel the joy and you can feel the happiness, and the place is up. And if you can somehow instill in the workplace, doesn't matter what kind of workplace it is, some kind of a sense of joy. If you can just laugh a little bit, and if you can laugh with people, not at them, but with them, sometimes at them, but mostly with them. If you can laugh a little bit, it will save you in your leadership. Don't take life too seriously. Take somebody with you. We're riding into Salibe Piquet, and the Rotary there has a little riding club. They got a little bicycle club. And so they said, we want to send some riders out, and they're going to ride in with you for the last 40 miles. And so these 5 riders show up about 40 miles from our finish that day, and they're offloading their bikes. And their bikes were everything from, they had mountain bikes, they had kind of cruiser, they had just the strangest assortment of bicycles and gear and everything, but these guys were game. They got off and they got on their bikes and started riding, and we'd gone maybe about 3 miles from where we started. And my lead guy in the van pulled back beside me. He says, I think we're losing this guy off the back. I don't think, and we weren't really killing it. We were just rolling. He said, we're going to lose this guy off the back. And so I said, well, I'll go back and ride with him. So I went, and this guy's name was Mozilla. And Mozilla is a big man. He's a beginning cyclist. And in this picture, he has never ridden more than 15 miles in his life. And he's going to do 40 miles. And it's 40 miles, and it's hilly, and it's hot, and the road is terrible, and it's all of that. So I went back and I rode with him, and I witnessed a real heroic effort by this guy. We had been riding at this point about 18 miles an hour, across this part of the country. It was a little hilly, so we'd been kind of rolling. We're going like 10, 11, 8. We're dropping back. We're going painfully slow. But this guy is determined. Every once in a while I say, do you want to stop and get a drink or something? And he said, no, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. He'd heard Obama's slogan, yes we can, and that was his thing. Everyone, he'd look over at me, he'd smile, he'd say, yes we can. So, okay, yeah, there we go. You gotta take inspiration where you can find it. Yes we can. And so for this guy's out riding, he was riding for his health. He said, I know that I need to get myself in shape because bad things are going to happen if I don't. So for his health, for his little boy, for the sheer challenge, he sent his money, he sent his cash to South Africa to a friend, sent him to a bike store to have him purchase him a bike, box it up, ship it up to Salibe Piquet, where he unboxed the thing, put it together. This guy had no experience whatsoever on a road bike yet. Here he is out there, and he's doing it, and he put in the great effort of the day. And for me, it was my hardest day physically, because at day 3, my body was really tired, and going this slow was, and I don't mean that in a braggadocious, going this slow was painful. It was because you're just not making any progress, and the horizon just keeps opening up before you. And I remember we came over a hill, and he said, there's the town, and we looked over, and there's the stacks of the mines of Salibe Piquet, and I said, how far is that, Matsuyama? He says, only 25 miles. In that moment, I'm praying, Jesus, help us, God, do something, I just, at that moment, believe me, my feet were killing me, and any contact with the bike was becoming increasingly painful because I'd been on it for about 8 hours now with Matsila. But I learned the lesson, always take somebody with you. This guy inspired our entire team. We talked that night, we talked the next day, it just kept coming up in conversation, you know, it's not who you drop, it's who you bring along with you. It's not who you're faster than, it's who you help make faster. It's who you coach, it's who you help. And I don't have the picture, but the picture of him finishing, we finished at a little restaurant in Salibe. The moment that he finished, and then his buddies from his little riding club coming out and surrounding him, I mean, that moment, for me, I'm stepping back and taking this all in, saying this is just one of the coolest moments of the trip for me. So I wanted to include that. If I look like I'm happy here, I am really happy because we're pulling into the parking lot on day 6 at Cycle Labs in Polokwane, South Africa, and we're done. We're going to get off the bike and we're going to get something to eat, and we don't have to get on the bikes again. It's done at this point. And teaching point is simply this: enjoy the finish. When we finish things, we don't celebrate like, well, I don't know, you Rotarians are pretty good at celebrating anything. But we really need to enjoy the finish, enjoy even the small accomplishments. We need to celebrate them. If I look happy, I am happy. And I'm also watching the most undertrained rider on our crew, the guy who didn't put in the time. Because he worked so hard, the whole team said, we really want him to lead us in. Let him finish first. And so we had him out front, and he's pulling into the lot, and myself and Dave behind me, and there's another guy coming around the corner. We're watching this guy. He crossed the line, he got off his bike, and he broke down and just began to cry. And this big man, he just stood there and he cried for about 5 minutes because it was the biggest physical challenge he'd ever taken on in his life, and he finished. And we were able to share that moment with him. It was 620 miles, a lot of sweat and pain and laughter and tear. I couldn't wipe the smile off my face for days after that. It was an incredible experience for me. What it all means, this is at one of the schools that we stopped at, and this is what you find everywhere with the kids. If you'll engage with the kids, they will engage with you, and they are an absolute riot. Everywhere we went, we were mobbed by children. And in the school setting too, with their teachers, you just see such a passion for teaching, a passion for education, a passion for a better life. And so to enjoy it with these kids is everything. This finish meant that we gave out more than 60,000 copies of the Book of Hope, which is a simplified scripture, but it's written contextually, and it's used also as a teaching aid for the teachers. They use it and intersperse it for English lessons and everything. We've designed the tool so it's not only the gospel, but it's also an excellent teaching tool, which is why the world has opened up for Book of Hope distribution in countries you can't even imagine us being able to do this type of work there. The kids are receiving their copies, over 60,000 copies from this one ride have been distributed now in South Africa, in Zambia, in Botswana. Teacher training courses are going on right now, all of that paid for with the $70,000 we raised this year. Next year we begin at the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to start up really close to Namibia. We'll be crossing 2 days, we'll be crossing African desert. I've got to go over in February and fly over it just to make sure that it's passable. But we'll cross an African desert, and then we'll cross all of South Africa, and we'll arrive at the Indian Ocean, and it'll be 9 days of riding, 1,000 miles, but it will literally cross the continent. And so that's the next Hope Ride, and in the next Hope Ride we hope to go over $100,000 raised for Reaching a Generation. I don't know if I told you guys, and I don't want to I violated time, I'm right on it. We're going to be, we're doing some cool things in Zambia. We've got pontoon boats that are loaded up and taking education and Sunday school ideas, taking all of those things on Saturdays up the rivers to the villages that have absolutely nothing. Pull the pontoon boat right onto the riverbank, set up and do the programs that we can do there. The pontoon has sound systems and everything else on it. It's really cool stuff. People here in the U.S. have donated pontoon boats they've had sitting out in the garage that they had nothing to do with. We've taken them apart, we've put them in containers. The first pontoon boat hit the waters this week on the upper Zambezi near our base there. There's some incredible things going on there. Bobby, thank you so much. I'm sorry I took a little bit of extra.
Thank you. And on behalf of the past presidents, here's $500.
Thank you so much.
A generation for
Thank you
your
so
next
much.
ride. And also, we will donate appropriately a book to Cone Elementary, Ollie and the Lost Toy, a lift the flap story.
I'll get a picture of that and send it to Jacques later. He'll love that. Thank
And
you so much.
if you would, please draw our raffle ticket. Don't forget the cart fund on your table. There's a winner in here somewhere.
447. Well, no, it's 447, no matter which way you turn.
Once again.
Well, all right.
6 hours.
Donation.
457.
That's me.
Have a great day.